We've been waiting since 2019, and it's finally here, and it's every bit as exciting as the first two seasons. Hello, and welcome back to the Superhero Initiative. Today, I'm going over Jack Ryan Season 3 and explaining the ending. If you haven't seen the show yet, go watch it now and return later because there are major spoilers ahead. Remember to subscribe to the Superhero Initiative because we produce content like this and much more about movies, TV shows, and of course, superheroes. First of all, this show has been incredible since the very first episode back in 2018. I think the writers have done a fantastic job with each and every episode, and I highly recommend this show to anyone who loves action spy thrillers. John Krasinski was, I think, the best actor they could have chosen to play Jack Ryan, and I love how all the actors and characters fit into the show with each other. Okay, so in this season, Jack is working as a CIA case officer in Rome when he learns that the Sokol Project, a secret plan to restore the Soviet Union, has been resurrected more than 50 years after it was thought to have been stopped. Jack then goes on a mission to confirm the intelligence, but things quickly go wrong. Accused of treason and facing a red notice from the CIA, Jack is forced to flee from his own government if he hopes to uncover the rogue factions inside Russia before it's too late. Jack races across Europe as he is pursued by former allies and new enemies alike in order to stop the United States and Russia from spiraling into World War III. I love the plot in this season. I feel like anytime Russia is involved in a plot, it makes everything more interesting because something like this could theoretically happen in real life. This is one element of the show that I actually really enjoy because it's so realistic that you feel like the events are actually happening around you. My favorite part of the season was all the backstabbing from seemingly everyone. In the opening episode, Russian Defense Minister Dmitry Popov is killed in front of Czech President Elena Kovac. Later, it turns out that the person behind the assassination was Kovac's head of security named Radek. And to add on to it, Radek was hired by Petr Lebedev, Kovac's father. I like how in this season, we see more of Jack's military backgrounds and his ability to perform in combat rather than him being an analyst behind a desk. Personally, I love the more action that this presents combined with Jack's analytical abilities that allow him to make good decisions on his own. And by taking away the CIA as a resource for Jack, means that he has to make more decisions on his own, and it means that Jack is more front and center in this season and is using his own intuition. The urgency that this adds means that the show feels more tense when it needs to be and keeps you more engaged. Another thing I like about this season is the way it takes humor into account. Obviously, you need something to lighten the mood in something so tense. In this season, the events are so serious and world-threatening that to throw in jokes at random moments, like some new films do, would completely ruin it. However, I like how it keeps Jack's relationships, especially with Greer and Mike November, as light as ever, just like they've always been. Overall, this season involved a lot more espionage that would be expected from a show centered around a CIA officer. I like how every small detail would be referenced later and mean something bigger because this really made viewers pay attention and ask questions. Jack is given a ride on a helicopter by some Army Rangers who are attempting to board the naval warship, the USS Roosevelt. The vessel's U.S. commander, however, will not let Jack on board. So the Ranger asks Jack how critical it is that he boards the ship, and Jack says it's life or death. When Jack gets on board, the U.S. commander isn't interested in hearing about any conflict, nor does he want Jack to tell him not to pick a fight in Russia. A petty officer then informs them that a Russian ship called the Fearless is heading their way. The U.S. commander inquires as to why this concerns him, and Jack responds. The unauthorized coup in Russia purposely heightened tensions in the Baltic. Before she says anything else, Jack tells him it's a solitary ship called the Fearless, and the coup is counting on the ship's commander to follow his standard rules of engagement. Jack also informs him that the coup has a psychological profile of him, and that he can easily predict his every move. Meanwhile, Luka is above this Russian ship led by his old soldier, Antonov. He's armed with a pistol, and when he walks into his target's quarters, he's accompanied by an armed guard. Luka then is apprehended. Alexei Petrov convenes a capital meeting to vote President Surikov out of Russia. James Greer then illegally enters the Kremlin and intentionally enters the wrong password into a security door, causing Kremlin officers to arrest him. Finally, Mr. November and President Kovac are led through a back door to meet with Russian President Surikov. This is all part of a coordinated effort to thwart the crossbow coup, and Jack Ryan is the final piece. The man guarding Luca is the ship's executive officer and the only person with the authority to question and overrule Captain Antonov. Do you find that strange, he asks. Greer is being held at the Kremlin when Petrov walks in. Greer informs him that he is aware of the coup and has come to offer him asylum in the United States in order to put an end to the madness. At the same time, President Kovac and Mr. November are in the Russian president's office, playing a recording of Petrov discussing the plan to depose him and restore Russia to its former glory. This sets off a wild chain reaction. A Kremlin agent enters and informs Petrov that their president wishes to see him. Petrov now appears concerned, and he walks out of the room. And after ascending a short flight of stairs, he sees Surokov's protective team from both sides. He grabs a gun, but he is shot dead before he can fire. Luka is let out of his cell, and the executive officer follows him to the bay where Antonov is opening fire on the U.S. Roosevelt. Antonov cannot explain to anyone why he would initiate this action in the absence of command center directives. Antonov defies his second in command and opens fire on the U.S. ship. Then the U.S. commander, Bennett, employs countermeasures to intercept the armed missile. This gives the United States no time to defend itself, so they must shoot now, and the president has authorized them to attack if they are fired upon. Ryan begs Bennett not to take the bait, but Bennett refuses to listen and has his orders. Finally, Antonov is apprehended, the ship is taken over by the second in command, and Luka can communicate with the warship that Antonov is no longer in control. Ryan makes a point of asking Luka directly if Russia is at war with the U.S., and Luka responds, "That is entirely up to you." Bennett pauses for a moment, taking this into consideration before deciding not to fire on the Fearless. This season concludes with Elizabeth being appointed director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Greer and Jack are given medals for their bravery. What is Jack rewards for bravery, you might ask? The Bronze Intelligence Star is awarded for voluntary acts of bravery performed under hazardous conditions or for outstanding achievements or services rendered with distinction under grave risk. Jack and Greer exit Langley's front door, passing by the stars on the wall. This was by far my favorite season. I was captivated by the plot and the events leading up to the climax, and I think the ending fitted the show perfectly. Everything was right in front of you, but it was well hidden enough that you didn't realize what was going on. I can't wait till season 4, and if you like this video, please consider subscribing to the Superhero Initiative.